time was when our African ancestors came to the Caribbean, they carried with them Anancy, the folk hero, in their folk tales because, like coconut, Anancy was in everything. Shrewd and cunning, Anancy is sometimes called a jinnal because he often plays tricks on the other creatures in the woodland where he lives. Anancy stories are important in our oral tradition. They have been told from generation to generation, and they help us to understand our culture and to learn important lessons to prepare us for adult life. In West Africa, where our folk tales come from, Anancy is thought to be a god. Anancy is thought to be the reason why everything happens. For many persons, Anancy is the reason dogs have that sink in their sides. And he is believed to be the reason why wasps have no teeth. Anancy is also thought to be the reason why cats and rats are not friends anymore and the reason why hogs have long mouths. Storytellers across the Caribbean tell Anancy stories, and Anancy stories are enjoyed around the world. Today, if you cannot get to the circle under the big tree in the village in West Africa, you can go online and find Anancy on the web. Hi, I am Miss Viv and I am your storyteller. And today is National Storytelling Day, and the Manchester Parish Library is pleased to bring you this story of Anancy. Anancy on Bird Cherry Island. Anancy loved bird cherries. He loved them to death. And Anancy heard the birds talking that there was this island. They called it Bird Cherry Island. And on Bird Cherry Island, all the trees were laden with the most delicious, the reddest, the juiciest, the sweetest bird cherries. So Anancy now wanted to get bird cherries too. So he asked the birds, please, can you take me with you to Bird Cherry Island? Me want to go to Bird Cherry Island. So the birds said, we have to think about it. We have to talk about it. We can't just say yes or no. We have to have a conference. So the birds had a conference. And the discussion was, should we take Anancy with us to Bird Cherry Island? Some birds said, I'm not sure that we should take him with us because Anancy's a trickster. And other birds said, well, how many tricks can we really play on Bird Cherry Island? He can't even fly. And another bird said, well, if he's to get to Bird Cherry Island, we can't lift him and take him there. We would need to give him wings. But as he's not a bird, he can't have wings. Maybe each one of us could give him a feather and put them together on him, glue him up nicely, and take him with us to Bird Cherry Island. So they went to Anancy and they said, Anancy, this is what we're going to do. Each of us is going to give you a feather. And we're going to take you with us to Bird Cherry Island. So on the day appointed, man, Anancy got the feathers on and the birds glued him on, and Anancy beginning to feel very special and very sweet and very bossy. And the leader bird said, okay, it's time to go. And they all lifted up. Come on, Anancy, lift your hands and flap them like we do. And Anancy was airborne, and Anancy was flying. And so off they went to Bird Cherry Island. And man, when they got to Bird Cherry Island, Anancy was in awe. He was in wonderment. And Anancy was in shock because everywhere he looked, there were trees with these delicious, these juicy, these red, these sweet cherries. And they said to Anancy, listen now, you are going to stay on the ground. We will go up and we will pick them and we will drop them. You will pack them in the bags. and then we will all have a feast when we get back home. Well, Anancy said, yes, I will do that. I will pack them in the bags. I will do that. I will do that. So there is Anancy now on the ground with the birds up in the trees, throwing down the cherries, and he's supposed to be packing them. And Nancy said to himself, because you know, Anancy can be a trickster sometimes, and Nancy can be a genial. So Anancy said, me nah pack them cherries in them bag. I'm going to pack them in my big round bag. This is my belly. I'm going to pack them in there. And let me tell you, while the birds were up there busy picking, and Nancy was busy packing into his mouth, cherries going down into his stomach, and his stomach was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and so big, and Nancy now was so full he couldn't have any more, and all that cherry eating made him sleepy. So Nancy lay down and curled himself up, and Nancy began to sleep. And when the birds came down and looked around for the bags of cherries, there were no bags of cherries. But guess what? They saw Anancy curled up in a ball sleeping, and when they looked at Anancy's belly, it was the biggest belly you have ever seen. Anancy's belly was bigger than the biggest balloon you have ever seen. And they woke him up. Anancy, where are the cherries? Where are the cherries? We picked so many cherries, and you promised you would have taken care of them, you would have packed them in the bags, and we would all have cherries to eat. And now there are no cherries. And Nancy said, well, you know, I was so tired. I decided to, and Nancy was telling lies now. I decided to take a little nap and to sleep, and I fell asleep, and I don't know what happened to the cherry. Well, the birds were very smart, and they knew that Anancy was lying. They also knew that it was time to get on with the flying back home. And you know what? They had a little whispered conference away from Anancy. They whispered and they said, when we get up in the air, we are all going to take our feathers from him. Every one of us will take our feathers from him, and then let's see how he's going to get home. Well, you know what? They all took off up in the air, Anancy too. And Anancy was being very defiant. And what do you think you can do to me? What do you think you can do to me? So when they got up in the air and they were flying nicely back home, one by one, each bird came and they pulled a feather, pulled a feather, pulled a feather. And what do you think happened to Anancy? No, Anancy had no feathers. Anancy was not a bird. Anancy couldn't fly. So of course, Anancy went down, and by this time they were over the water. And Nancy went down into the water with a big old splash. And who do you think was waiting for Anancy? Brother Alligator was waiting for Anancy. And he grabbed Anancy and he said, this is my dinner. And of course, that's another story for another time. I'll just tell you this, that Anancy had to bargain with Alligator. And he said, brother Alligator, remember say me and you is cousin, you know. Me and you are cousin for a young time. And me can come to your house and sleep, and you can, when me wake up in the morning, me will be more tender. You can cook me and eat me that time. But of course, Anancy didn't plan for brother Alligator to eat him. But that is a story for another time. But what I can tell you is this. Alligator took him to his house and gave him a bed to sleep for the night. And when we meet again, I'll tell you part 2 of the story. Is Anancy making